There's a specific kind of embarrassment that comes with tears, not loud sobbing, not traumatic breakdowns, just that quiet sting behind your eyes over something small. A scene in a movie, a kind sentence, a slightly tense comment in a meeting. And before the tears even fall, your mind says, "What is wrong with me?" It's not the crying that hurts the most. It's what you believe the crying means. Too sensitive, too emotional, too much. Maybe later that day, you replay the moment in your head. You wonder if someone noticed, if they thought you were unstable, if you should have held it together. But what if crying easily isn't a flaw? What if it's not weakness, but wiring? For most people, emotions pass through filters. Something sad happens, their mind softens it. Something meaningful happens, it tones it down. A sharp comment lands, it gets diluted. But if you cry easily, your system may use fewer filters. Psychologists call this heightened emotional sensitivity. It means your nervous system registers emotional information faster and more intensely than average. That doesn't mean you exaggerate reality. It may mean you perceive more of it. You notice the pause in someone's voice. You feel the weight behind a sentence. You sense tension before it's spoken out loud. You're not reacting to nothing. You're reacting to layers. And here's something most people don't realize. Tears are rarely about just one moment. When you cry over something small, your brain is often connecting it to stored stress, old memories, unspoken worries, emotions you haven't had time to process. Psychologists call this emotional accumulation. A small spark releases a quiet buildup. You're not just reacting to now. You're releasing what's been waiting. So maybe your system isn't breaking down. Maybe it's recalibrating. Some research suggests that emotional expression, including crying, can activate calming pathways in the nervous system. In other words, your body might be doing maintenance, not collapsing. But here's where it gets misunderstood. We live in a culture that rewards emotional distance. Composure is praised. Stillness is admired. Tears are questioned. So when you show emotion openly, it can make others uncomfortable. Not because you're wrong, but because you're modeling something they've learned to suppress. Psychologists call this emotional projection. Instead of examining their own discomfort, people label your tears as excessive. But long-term emotional suppression has been linked to increased stress and internal strain. Feeling deeply isn't dangerous. Disconnecting from feeling often is. There's another truth people rarely talk about. Emotional expression can build resilience. It's easy to assume that people who cry easily can't handle pressure, but often the opposite is true. When emotions are released instead of stored, they don't build the same internal pressure. People who allow themselves to feel tend to recover more smoothly from stress because they process it in real time. What looks like instability may actually be regulation happening out in the open. And sometimes emotion surfaces before language does. You cry when you're overwhelmed because your system is signaling overload. You cry when you're touched because your body recognizes connection. You cry when you're frustrated because something important needs attention. Tears are information, not evidence of defect. So the next time your eyes well up and that old thought appears, what's wrong with me? Consider a different possibility. What if nothing is wrong? What if your emotional system simply runs without the heavy filters others rely on? What if you're not too much, but more aware? Being moved by kindness, beauty, pain, or meaning isn't weakness. It's responsiveness. It's connection. It's proof that you haven't numbed yourself just to survive the day. Yes, it can feel inconvenient. Yes, it can feel embarrassing. But it can also mean you experience life in full color instead of muted tones. So tell me, are you someone who cries easily and has learned to accept it? Or are you still quietly wondering if you're too sensitive? Let me know in the comments. And if this resonated with you, Subscribe for more conversations about the psychology behind the thoughts you rarely say out loud.